What's cracking, guys? Bruce Madsen here, your show of Metro Scout Fantasy Football, and today is mock draft day. I got another rookie mock draft for you guys to get you ready for the NFL draft, the offseason, everything else. As you all know, these mock drafts I've been doing have a theme because I'm rolling them out pretty consistently, just giving you different looks. Here, I just gave a cheat sheet of like 60, 70 guys to some friends. They mock drafted, they gave me the results, and now I got a draft to go over with you guys. Before we dig in, I just want to let you guys know that this video is sponsored by the subscribe button. You hit that button and you're getting free Dynasty Fantasy Football content, and it's coming your way consistently. Oh, you're already subscribed? Don't worry, because you got that like button right there. Tap that and good things are gonna happen. But with that being said, let's roll into this 2-round Superflex rookie mock draft. With the first player off the board in this draft in the 101 pick, we're going quarterback early in this one, and they drafted Matt Corral, quarterback from Ole Miss. He's got a little bit of rushing production. He can sling it downfield. He's got some accuracy. He's not scared to fit the ball in the tight windows. Highly likely, high probability he's going to be a first-round pick. Only question is where he's going to go, how high he's going to get selected. I imagine he's going to be one of the first quarterbacks drafted. And here in this draft, they got him as the 101. Rolling on to the 102 in this draft, the second player off the board is Treylon Burks, wide receiver from Arkansas. Productive this year, has been productive throughout his career. 41.15% market share of Arkansas's passing production, 3.57 yards per route run, 9.3 yards after the catch per reception. He is probably the golden child of this draft class for Dynasty gamers. A lot of people have him as the true 101 in this draft class. The wide receiver a lot of people want to get. I get it. Some people want Garrett Wilson, but when you scroll social media, you're going to get a lot of Treylon Burks hype. Again, got him comped a little bit to A.J. Brown type deal. Good wide receiver, probably going to get first-round draft capital. Moving on to the 103, third pick in this draft, we're going quarterback again, and these guys shot their shot here. They went high and heavy for the upside. They drafted Malik Willis, quarterback from Liberty. Konami code quarterback. If you're a high-end Konami code quarterback and you hit with that rushing production and you're able to sling the rock as well and be consistent at the NFL level, you're going to have top-tier fantasy production. That's what these guys went with. He's rough around the edges. He does need to develop, but if he can build some consistency and tap into that upside more often than not, then we got a special fantasy asset on our hands. High risk, high reward. Moving on to the 104, fourth player off the board here, we're going running back. They drafted Breece Hall, running back from Iowa State. He's going to have top end draft capital. He's going to be a second round pick more than likely unless these running backs start to jump up the board. I don't see that happening, but it could. I'm not a magician. I don't know, but mock drafts, on average, he's fallen in the second round. He had 46 touchdowns in the last 2 seasons, and he averaged 2.86 yards after contact per attempt. He's been productive from his first year in college football as a freshman and up until now. Breece Hall, good selection here at the 104. Rolling here to the 105 pick, they went quarterback again. This group is going quarterback heavy. They drafted Kenny Pickett, quarterback from Pitt, and he was highly productive this year, passing for 4,319 yards, 42 touchdowns. Dude's got a little bit of moxie in him. He can sling the rock downfield. He's not afraid to push it. He's got a little bit of accuracy. He's a scrambler. He can run with it a little bit, so he does give you a little bit of rushing production. He's not a Konami code quarterback, more like a scrambler, but he can run with it. Again, we're looking at another quarterback here who's projected to get first-round draft capital in Superflex. That's something you want to be looking into. Moving on to the 106, and this group is still going quarterback heavy. They drafted Sam Howell, quarterback from North Carolina. 800 rushing yards this year, looks good. Again, he's not a Konami code quarterback, more like a scrambler. He's going to run with it a bit, get you some rushing yards. 3 years of solid production. Looked good during his freshman season. He's looked good throughout his career. He's got some accuracy. He can thread the needle a little bit. And there's also a very good chance he's getting first-round draft capital. Moving on to the 107. These jabronis drafted Garrett Wilson, wide receiver from Ohio State. Some people have him as the best wide receiver in the draft. I did a rookie profile on him like last week. Exceptional route runner, great ball skills, can climb the ladder, can box out defenders, averaged 3 yards per route ran this year, and he will be driving the first round. I do not see him falling to the second, not at all. More than likely will be the first wide receiver selected this year. Moving on to the 108 pick. Going again with wide receiver here, and they drafted Drake London, wide receiver from USC, 6'5". Dude can get downfield, box it out, climb the ladder, make catches in the Mike Evans type of mold. He's also a little bit slick on the route running. He's got smooth footwork. He's a former basketball player, can box out. He's tough at the catch point, had a 30.28% market share, and that's with the games missed baked into that. Probably going to be a first rounder. That's more than likely. I don't see him falling out of the first either. Drake London's a good get this part of the draft. Going to the 109. Another running back here is going off the board. Isaiah Spiller, running back from Texas A&M, as the RB2 in this draft. Rushed for over 1,000 yards this year, 6 touchdowns, 3.63 yards after contact per attempt, 74 career catches. Can be used in the passing game. He was used a little bit more in the passing game this year, and he was used a little bit more differently. He had more deeper targets, so that's something to look into. Also, for his size, packs a good amount of burst. He can really run guys over at the point of contact in the open field if he can build up that speed, and he's a guy to watch for because he is going to get that second round draft capital. At least that's where he's getting mocked out a lot. Moving on to the 110th, 10th pick off the board. These guys drafted Kenneth Walker, running back from Michigan State. This guy was in the running for the Heisman Trophy. One of the most productive players in college football. Averaged 4.46 yards after contact per attempt. That's better than a lot of running backs' yards per carry, so that's very stellar. Over 1,600 yards rushing this year, 18 touchdowns. One of the most productive players in all of college football, and really put the nation on notice. This guy has good vision, good footwork, and can really be an exceptional piece at the NFL level in the right situation. Also, we're looking at a running back who's probably going to get good draft capital, probably at least a second round pick. He could surprise us and sneak in the first round. I've heard some rumors about that on the internet. I don't really believe it until I see it, but I feel like he is pegged pretty solid in the second round this year. Moving on to the 111. 11th player off the board. We're going running back again. This is the running back time, and they went with Kyron Williams, running back from Notre Dame. Just did a video on him the other day. This guy's got burst. He's got speed. He can catch the ball in the backfield. The question is he going to get the draft capital? I think he can. He also blocks his face off. Very good blocker. That's going to allow him to get pushed up the board in the real draft because that's what them old school guys like. And him being able to catch the ball in the backfield is going to allow him to produce in fantasy with them PPR points. That burst in the second level is going to allow him to be a home run threat. And also, since he has a lot of skills, that increases his range of outcomes. Sounds a little bit scary, but he can be a high-end backup. He can be a starter. He can be a pass-catching specialist in the right situation. So a lot of things he could be doing at the NFL level, but he has a lot of tools in his tool belt. Moving on to the 112, the 12th player off the board, last pick in the first round. They drafted Jamison Williamson, wide receiver from Alabama, formerly from Ohio State. We're talking about a wide receiver here that had 4.3 speed, blew up first year Alabama. It will be his last year at Alabama. Projected to be in the first round, will go in the first round. I guarantee that because NFL teams love paying the Alabama tax. Had a 31.91% market share of Alabama's passing production this year. Jameson Williams is rounding out the first round. That is the first round of this Superflex mock draft. Let's head into the second round. Here we are going to start things off with the 201 pick with David Bell, wide receiver from Purdue. He might actually be the best wide receiver in the draft. If anything, from the wide receiver standpoint, he's probably going to be the best value. This guy broke out at age 18. He has been productive throughout his career. This season, he owned a 30.74% market share of Purdue's passing production. He's got good ball skills. He can run routes. He's got good body control. He can really do it all. There's not many red flags in his game. I like David Bell a lot. Moving on to the 202 pick, we're going wide receiver again. And we're going with a guy who's got a lot of upside here. They drafted George Pickens, wide receiver from Georgia. He broke out early in his career at age 18. We got another age 18 breakout here with a 23.29% market share. Follow that up with a 20.53% market share in 2020. Then he tore his ACL in the offseason, and we didn't have much to look from or look forward to about him this year in 2021 during his junior season. He came in during the college football playoff, played well, did some big plays, and he did that just to show us that he still has it, that this knee isn't bothering him, and now he's getting ready for the draft. He's getting ready to show us what he can do. Before the injury, he was considered a top 3 guy in Devy going into this 2022 NFL draft class, and he is falling a little bit, and that could make him a tremendous discount even here at 202 in a Superflex rookie mock draft. I think that's a tremendous value because you're talking about a guy who probably, if he didn't have the ACL, just posted similar production, maybe like a 25% market share type of year. You're talking about a mid-first round pick no matter what. Top wide receiver who's probably up there with Drake London, Treylon Burks, Garrett Wilson, the top guys in this draft. But he faded a little bit to kind of like that next tier. Really should be in that first tier when you think about if he had another season of health and development. Going on to the 203, third pick off the board. These guys drafted Jahan Dotson from Penn State. He is a candidate to be drafted in the first round of this year's draft. He's got some good ball skills. I like how he can reach up overhead or out to the side and really bring in the ball through his hands. He has really sticky, strong hands in traffic. That is something that sticks out in his game. I look for him to get decent draft capital. I look for him to be a riser in a lot of people's boards if he's not already up there. Jahan Dotson is a good value here at the 203 spot. Moving on to 204, we're going back at quarterback. Feel like quarterbacks are slipping a little bit, but wide receivers deep, and we had some running backs, so it's kind of understandable here. Desmond Ridder, quarterback from Cincinnati, was selected. 4 great seasons at Cincinnati. Over 10,000 yards, 87 touchdowns on the career. He's got some ability. Draft capital is going to matter for him. He's probably going to fall in the draft a little bit, or he could get pumped up because quarterbacks, they are important. NFL teams are willing to pay that tax to get them. If they hit, then that is an invaluable asset they have on their team. If they miss, they can just move on to the next one. But Desmond Ridder here at 204, good shot to pull on a quarterback prospect who's got some upside in his game. Let's move on to 205, the next player off the board. And we're going back to wide receiver here. Chris Olave, wide receiver from Ohio State. Some people have him as one of the best wide receivers in this draft class. He was considered one of the best wide receivers in this draft class going into this season. Things kind of decreased a little bit when it comes to the volume and production, but he's still an exceptional route runner, still can catch the ball, still's got some speed, had a 21.37% market share. Ohio State's passing production, that's sharing the field with Garrett Wilson, Jackson Smith-Njigba, so it's understandable that you would see an increase when we add another stud in the passing game. Good get here at the 205. At the 206 here, one of my favorite wide receivers in this draft, one of the cheaper guys that I like. It's Wan'Dale Robinson, wide receiver from Kentucky. 1,342 yards, 7 touchdowns this season. Also broke out in Nebraska, so he broke out with 2 collegiate programs, had a 43.11% market share of their passing production, 3.56 yards per out run, and 5.8 yards after the catch per reception. He's explosive, he's athletic, good strong hands, and he's very assertive. I like Wan'Dale Robinson a lot. I think I'm going to try and pump him up my board as much as possible, or trade back and try and get more shares of him in a lot of my drafts. Moving on to the 207, these guys went back to the running back well and drafted Tyler Algier, running back from BYU. Big, thick runner, productive. This year rushed for over 1,600 yards, 23 touchdowns, has back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. Here he averaged 4.16 yards after contact per attempt and has 46 catches over the last 2 seasons. So we got a bigger back who can catch the ball in the backfield, and I feel like he's going to get a pump up in draft capital once we get further into draft season. At the 208, they went running back again, drafted Rachaad White, running back from Arizona State, and this guy can catch the ball in the backfield. He's a little bit older, though. He's 23 years old. That could be a knock on him on draft day. Also, we don't know really where he's going to get drafted in the draft. We don't have a good consensus or a gauge on that. If he falls, he's going to fall in rookie drafts. If he gets pumped up a bit, he's going to get pumped up a bit in rookie drafts. It's just kind of like how the game is played. 1,000-yard rusher, 15 touchdowns, 3.38 yards after contact per attempt, caught 43 balls. Again, he's good in the passing game and has a little bit of explosiveness in space. Moving on to the 209 pick, 9th player here in the 2nd round. This guy fell a little bit. I did a mock draft on Twitter and another one the other day, and he did fall to me in the 2nd round. So this spot is realistic here. They drafted Carson Strong here from Nevada. Chance that he gets drafted in the 1st round, I think it's a good chance. Has the strongest arm in the draft. He can really sling the rock. However, he's not mobile. He does not have the Konami code capabilities, something fantasy gamers don't like, but he has touch. He has that strong arm, and he's going to have draft capital, which is going to matter. And lately, these last few years, the quarterback who's been falling has been returning the most value. So getting the quarterback at 209, Carson Strong here, might be the play for us to make. Next player off the board here, 210. We are going to be dipping our toes in a new well here. Haven't talked much about the tight end position. Might have talked about it a little bit earlier in the season. Talked about a little bit over at the DOF channel, especially this guy here. And they drafted Trey McBride, tight end from Colorado State. I've been on this guy for a few years. I drafted him like 2 years ago in a Devy League. Saw his market share rates. Knew it was a little bit high for a tight end, so I made sure to pick him up. Last year was kind of a down year for him because of the COVID season. This year, though, he went gangbusters. 31.12% market share of Colorado State's offensive production. Being mocked in the 1st round. 1st round. A tight end going in the 1st round by Mel Kiper. I feel like when Mel Kiper has a strange player like this in the 1st round, he's caught some news that an NFL scout or somebody likes him. Trey McBride, though, has been phenomenal in the passing game throughout his career, not just this year. And I could see him with some development or in the right system with the right quarterback or whatever, being productive in fantasy. Again, tight ends are wild cards, but at 210, we got a tight end off the board who could do some things. Going back to the tight end's position here at 211, and normally we're not going tight end too heavy, but these guys did. Jalen Whittemire, tight end from Texas A&M. I might have butchered the name. I can't remember, but he's been a top Devy tight end throughout his collegiate career. People's been on him. He's got some athleticism, has some receiving chops. Probably going to get some draft capital, considering he is considered one of the better talents at the tight end spot. However, Brevin Jordan last year was considered one of the top tight end talents in his class, fell in the draft. So we think we got a gauge. We don't always know until draft day. But Jalen Whittemire right now, though, he looks good to go as one of the top tight ends in this draft for what it's worth. Let's move on to the last pick in this draft, the 212. They drafted Sky Moore, wide receiver from Western Michigan, and a small school G5 prospect who has been productive throughout his collegiate career. We have an early breakout age at age 19, 3.4 yards per route run, 39.19% market share this year. Slick route runner, good hands, can be used in the slot and outside. Very interested to see how the NFL likes him, where he gets drafted at. But from a metric perspective, he's a guy you want to hit your wagon to, especially if he falls a little bit in the draft. Here at 212, I think that's a tremendous value. I think a lot of people are mocking him a little bit higher in their drafts. I've seen him get mocked or selected in mocks a little higher than this, so I think this is a good price point for Sky Moore. He's a G5 guy. We've had good G5 guys prior to this with tremendous metrics. Bail on us before. Andy Isabella comes off the top of my head. They're not comps at all. Different players. So really you gotta look at them as their own scenario. Sky Moore's got some goods. He's got some areas where he can win the field next level. Price point's going to matter, but he can play, and if he continues to develop, might end up being a fantasy football asset for the long term. But this is these jabronis 2-round Superflex rookie mock draft that was conducted. We went over the picks with you guys, over the advanced metrics on most of them, and let me know in the comments what you think. Who do you want drafted? I know some of you, I mean, it's going to be in the comments. It always is. Be like, I don't want a quarterback drafted at the 101 this year. I'm going Treylon Burks. I'm going running back. And then when I post a mock draft with Treylon Burks at 101 or the running back, they're like, hey, at Superflex, we're going quarterback. And it's a mix this year. I see it a lot on Twitter. I see it a lot on social media. It's mixed up. I'm getting it mixed up in these drafts a lot. But the reason why I'm pumping out all these mock drafts with all these different looks is so you get different looks. So when you're in your draft and something crazy happens, because this is kind of a crazy crop of players. No one's really saying that, but this is a crazy crop of players. Running backs different here. We got the big three, and then we got a slew of running backs who can just go all over the board on us. Wide receivers deep like always, but it's a little bit different because we got a little bit of everything at the wide receiver when it comes to profiles. Quarterbacks aren't that sexy this year. However, we're going to get some drafted in the first round. We got some with some mobility. We got some with some decent arms. So we may get a couple quarterbacks that exceed expectations. We could get a couple busts. But this is a weird class to gamble on. There's a lot of different prospects. We're going to get some hitters, and we're going to get some whiffers. And our job is trying to figure out how we're going to get more hitters than whiffers. But that's what we're going to try and do every year, and that's why you're following this channel, right? So make sure you hit that subscribe button on the way out. Every subscription fuels me to keep going over this content, helping you with your Dynasty team. That's why I keep going over the tape, going over the metrics, sharing my findings, producing mock drafts, producing rankings, and everything else. Again, I want to thank you, and I'll catch you next time.